Hello and welcome to my podcast, Up Your Total Glow, your podcast for your body, mind and soul, to support, guide and empower you to uncover your most glowing, healthiest and feel-good version of you. I am super excited that you're here because if you ask me, there's nothing that looks and feels better. In today's episode, I'm speaking with the absolutely brilliant Sue Thomas. Sue is a nutritional therapist and wellness coach, and she empowers women to break their addiction to sugar. Sue takes women from sugar cravings to control to improve mental clarity, create better sleep, and feel more confident in their clothes. I'm a huge fan of Sue, and this interview is absolutely beautiful and rich in wisdom, which Sue shares in very eloquent yet easy understandable terms. Among many other things, Sue shares with us why sugar is so addictive, what does actually happen in our bodies when we eat sugar, and how can we break free from this addictive cycle. If it is your goal to uncover a healthier, more sugar-free relationship with yourself and your body, if you want to understand what happens in your body when you eat sugar, or if you just want to make sure that your hormones are not running havoc, then this interview is a must listen for you. Please enjoy. Hello and welcome, beautiful. So I am so excited that you are here today. Thank you so much for taking the time. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me, Ruth. I'm super excited to be with you today.
Oh, fantastic. And let's jump right into it. Would you introduce yourself to my audience? Who are you? The big question in life. And what are you doing?
So I am Sue Thomas and I'm the sugar-free coach, and I've been in the wellness industry for 20 years.
Wow.
And previously I was a personal trainer, and I struggle to remember the dates, but it was kind of 12, 13 years ago. I had a streptococcal knee infection, which basically, well, we've got strep A in the UK at the minute, which is like a bacterial infection, but it affected my knee. And I had to go on a high dose of antibiotics for 25 days. At the time, they wanted to take me in, and I had 3 young children, and I was like, I can't do that. What's our options? And so I had these high dose antibiotics. Fast forward 4 years, and I was really struggling. I was struggling to be present for my clients. I was struggling to be present for my family. I was exhausted all the time. I was having to take a sleep in the afternoon between training my clients. And I realized I wasn't eating great. I was just eating to try and fuel myself, to keep myself going. And I realized I needed to do something about that. I needed to take back control. And so I created a really simple program for myself that was just simple steps every day that I knew I could take to help move my health in the right direction. And one of those steps was to remove sugar 90% from my diet. I'm honest, and I said, don't 100% not have sugar. I do have a little bit of it. And that didn't include fruit and things like that. It was more refined sugars. But I was really focused on making sure that my diet was supporting my gut health, because my gut health was all over the place as a result of the antibiotics, but also was supporting my energy levels. And at the time when I started to make this move into reducing my sugar and reducing the kind of beige carbohydrates and things in my diet, I was like, how am I ever going to manage without a sandwich, at lunchtime to give me the energy for the afternoon? But once I removed that sort of cut that bit, what I call beige carbohydrates at lunchtime, gosh, I noticed a difference in my energy for the afternoon. It really rose, it really improved. And so gradually over the course of probably about 18 months to 2 years, I was able to heal myself, heal my intestine, start to be more present for my clients, start to be there for my family as well, not have this deep exhaustion that I was struggling with all the time, and just started to become the person that I wanted to become, because I really like to walk the talk. I don't want to be someone who isn't an example for their clients, isn't someone who that client says, I want to be like that person. And so that took me till 2016. And then since then, I retrained as a nutritional therapist, and I've been working, I was working one-to-one with clients with a 3-month program to remove sugar and to take those small actions every day that I was taking. So I basically turned the program that healed my body into a program that I could work one-to-one with clients. And when we headed into lockdown, I realized that I needed to create something that really provided community support, a network of support for women to help them manage their health as they move into kind of perimenopause and menopause years, and their hormones start to change, and maybe they're noticing some changes in their body and they don't know how to manage that. And so I then created a group program called Fed Up to Fabulous. It's a 12-week group program. And that program takes women on this journey of reducing their sugar consumption, making some lifestyle changes, gradual lifestyle changes that takes them out the other end to become the person that they want to become, just like I did over that period of time. And I just absolutely love it. I love seeing those light bulb moments amongst those women. And it's not necessarily just women as well. It's men too, that I can help understand how sugar, and particularly insulin, is impacting their health on a day-to-day basis. And it really is. And it's something that in 21st century life, we're exposed to so much sugar, so much hidden sugar that we don't realize is there. And that is what's causing, this sort of global endemic of type 2 diabetes, of cardiovascular disease. All of these things are totally and utterly related to how much glucose is in our bloodstream and how much insulin is in our bloodstream as a result of the amount of sugar that we're consuming. And I feel really passionate about helping people understand that it's really very simple to make some quite easy changes that will transform your health. It really will.
Wow, Sue. What an introduction. This is why I love you so much. What a powerful woman. What a powerful way to start. I love that you, through your own journey, which was obviously very painful and you went through a lot of suffering, you were then able to empower yourself, and through this now have even turned it around and empower others. I think this is so beautiful. I also love what you say, that it's really important for you to walk your talk. I feel absolutely the same. And I think this translates to the client, to everyone around you, because we can feel if something is authentic or not. And also, like you mentioned, it doesn't mean that we as a coach or in whatever healing profession we are, that we have to be perfect. That's not what we are talking about.
Exactly.
That whatever where we feeling, ooh, something is not quite in balance, or I would like to have more energy there, to have a look at ourselves first. Oh, what's actually happening in my life? Where am I not showing up the best version of myself? And then finding steps how we can get back to this version and then bringing this to the outside. And you completely are doing this. And this is one reason why I love you so much and why I'm such a huge fan of you. I would love to dive a little bit more into sugar. Well, you are the expert here, and I couldn't agree more that it's quite mean, actually, how there are so many hidden sugars in our diet. And I see this every day in my job as a nutrition coach. So many clients come to me and they say, you know, I'm eating really healthily and I've cut out all sugars, so I don't know where these symptoms come from. And then when I have a look, I can see, oh yeah, there is still heaps of sugar in there. So can you first maybe go into this? Where are those sugars hidden? And then also, can you explain a little bit about what happens in our physiology when there is so much sugar in our bloodstream? How does this change our physiology? What happens, in easy, simple words? And also, why is sugar so incredibly addictive? Because it is.
Yeah. So let's start with what I like to call the glucose spectrum. So it's a colorful spectrum, and it starts at one end with greens and reds and oranges, and then it goes into kind of beiges, and then white. And I can't add alcohol into the white because it's not white, but I suppose clear in a way. And so on the one end of the scale, the greens, the reds and the oranges are all your kale, your broccoli, all the green vegetables. The reds and the oranges are all your starchy vegetables, and then your more fruit-based glucose. And then we get into the beige carbohydrate, which we have been told for years is complex carbohydrates. It's not complex carbohydrate, it's processed carbohydrate. It's as simple as that. Okay, so bread, pasta, all of the kind of beige carbohydrates, and then the white carbohydrates, which are all the refined sugars like cakes and donuts and chocolate and biscuits. Okay, they're not that color, but they've got that white refined sugar in. And our body functions on glucose. We need glucose. It's what fuels us. It's what fuels our brain. And when we consume our glucose, so our carbohydrates from the fibrous end of the scale, that colorful end of the scale, we're accessing the glucose. And any metabolic process your body goes through creates substances called free radicals. And they are side effects, they're side molecules that are created through the metabolic process of accessing the glucose in those colorful vegetables. And in those vegetables, they also contain something called antioxidants. You might have heard of this, like skincare creams have antioxidants on them, all this kind of thing. And they basically have a spare molecule that they will donate to the free radical to kind of neutralize it, for want of a better term of kind of way of explaining it. And that then will be cleared out of the system. That free radical that's been created that causes damage is neutralized, it's cooled right down, and it's cleared out of the system. And as a result, then we can get all our energy from that colorful end of the spectrum without speeding up the aging process. If we're getting a lot of our energy from the beige and the white end of the spectrum, they don't contain the antioxidants in the same way as the colorful carbohydrates do. And as a result, there is no neutralizing of those free radicals that are released. And those free radicals can initially start to cause damage. You might notice more lines around your eyes if you're consuming more sugar. They speed up the aging process. And a really great way of describing it is that they speed up the heat in your body, essentially. They're kind of heating up your body and they're speeding up the aging process, those free radicals, because they're not being neutralized by antioxidants. And so as a result, we start to get inflammation forming in the body. And that's the heating up process. So those free radicals will attack healthy tissue. We might see a little bit of joint pain, our knuckles and things like might be a bit uncomfortable, maybe our wrists, maybe our knees. We might see a few more lines appearing around our eyes. And definitely we will notice a difference in our energy levels because our body is trying to deal with this inflammation that's going on internally. And if we're trying to deal with inflammation internally, that's a huge stress on the body. Mm-hmm. So we've got initially the kind of glucose spectrum, and then the way that those food substances cause the body to release insulin. So when we consume our carbohydrates from the fibrous, the colorful end of the scale, we are that metabolic process that the body goes through to release the glucose is a much slower process. So insulin, which is the hormone that we need to pick up the sugars and take it to the cells for energy production, insulin is released in a much slower way. So we'll have a really nice slow release of insulin if we're getting all our carbohydrates from that colorful end of the scale. If we're getting our carbohydrates from the beige and the white end of the scale, that metabolic process is much quicker to access the glucose. And as a result, our pancreas, which releases our insulin, releases insulin really fast. And insulin rises really quickly in the system. It will pick up the sugars, it'll take them to the cells for energy production. If we don't need the energy, so the mitochondria are like, well, we're not producing any energy at the minute, so actually we're going to shut down all the insulin receptors on the cells. The insulin now has to take the sugar, the glucose, somewhere else, and it takes it to the liver and it stores it as glycogen. And that then adds another issue because the liver becomes what's known as sluggish and a little bit kind of, it's suboptimal, it's not working effectively. And that can have a knock-on effect to our hormone balance, and it can have a knock-on effect to our sleep, it can have a knock-on effect to our energy levels. So all of a sudden, this beige or white carbohydrate that we're consuming, not only has it resulted in our body starting to heat up and more inflammation being formed, but it's also putting a pressure on our liver, which is having a knock-on effect to other areas of our life, like, sleep, which is so important, energy levels, etc., etc. And then add to that little maelstrom of craziness and a storm, if you like. If your body's stressed internally with all that inflammation going on, we release a hormone called cortisol, which is the hormone that is released in response to stress. And if cortisol is high in the system and insulin is high in the system, those two hormones together have a real impact on our ability to manage our weight effectively. They have a real impact on our gut health. They disrupt the health of the good bacteria in our intestine. And they just, the feeling that we get when insulin and cortisol is high is, the only way to describe it is a bit kind of like, I can't be bothered. I've got no motivation. It affects our brain health. It affects our whole body. And that all translates back to how much carbohydrate we are consuming from beige and white carbohydrates. The more carbohydrate you consume from the colourful veg or the colourful carbohydrates, the more energy you'll have, the better your liver will function, the less inflammation there will be in your body, and the more you will be able to function on a day-to-day basis. And that's exactly where I was. I was eating a lot of beige and white carbohydrate to what I thought was to fuel my body, to help me train my clients through the course of the afternoon. But actually all I was doing was making it worse. I was heating my body up. I was causing a huge amount of stress internally, a huge amount of inflammation. And that was then impacting my sleep, which was having an impact on my energy levels the following day. You know, it was all this kind of vicious cycle. And once I broke that cycle and started to focus on my carbohydrates coming from the colourful side of the spectrum, the difference was incredible. And that's what I encourage my clients to do. And I never say to them, you're carb free, because you're not. If you're consuming lots of colourful veg, you are absolutely consuming carbohydrates. But we don't need to consume all the beige and the white, the ones that we've been told for years will give us energy, because they don't give you energy. They actually do the reverse. They might cause a spike and an energy peak, but insulin then crashes really quickly because it's taking the sugars out of the bloodstream. And that's where we have a real trough. We might find 10:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, our kind of slump time. And the body's going, oh my God, I need more carbohydrate. And that's when we'll reach for more beige or white carbohydrate. And then you're on this blood sugar roller coaster throughout the course of the day. That impacts your energy, it impacts your sleep, it impacts your choices around food, it impacts, you know, your kind of weight and everything. There's so many reasons to really start focusing on getting our insulin levels under control. Because when we do that, that is the panacea, in my opinion, to living a full and healthy and energized life.
Oh, wow. I love the way you explained that. Thank you so much. I have never, ever heard anyone explain this with this color scheme. This is a beautiful concept, so easy, so simple, and yet you have all the complexity within it. I love that. So, and what I also really, really appreciate and love is how you are speaking about the heating in the body. This is very familiar to me because I am also always a student of Ayurveda. So I really love how Ayurveda views our bodies and the effects certain foods and behaviors have on our health. And this is one of the things how Ayurveda views this too. So this is beautiful, absolutely amazing. I would love for you to, one, let us know, why is sugar so addictive? And secondly, also, if I understood you correctly, it's not that in general carbs are the bad guys, because you said obviously all those colorful foods on the other spectrum are also carbs. So can you, just to be totally clear, say something about, yeah, because there's still this common theme that I hear and see all the time, that carbs make us fat and sick. Can you just be very, very clear there? Because I believe that is definitely not true. And if you restrict too many carbs, not talking about those beige and white ones, then there's actually more harm that we do to our hormones, to our gut health.
Yeah. So actually the carbs that we're getting from our colorful veg are really important, because what they do, if you eat your carbs, your colorful veg first of all, when you're eating a meal, essentially what they do is they kind of almost line the stomach, and then anything else you eat after that then is much slower to release the glucose into your bloodstream. So we should never see those carbs as a bad thing. And actually, if you don't want to be talking about carbs, you could call them fiber if you wanted to, but they're still carbohydrate. They still result in the release of glucose into the bloodstream. So those carbohydrates on that end of the scale, yes, you absolutely should be consuming all of those carbohydrates because they're so full of nutrients, they're so full of healing properties for the body. And we want to be able to, as we age, we need more and more nutrients. So we want to be able to support our body with as many nutrients as possible. And removing those, or removing the carbs essentially, means that you're only focusing on protein and fats. And we're not, as humans, designed to only consume protein and fats. We are designed to consume a range of foods. We never have just consumed proteins and fats. So we should be having all those colourful fruits and vegetables in there. You can, however, slow the speed with which, so for example, let's say you're eating some strawberries, you can slow the speed with which the strawberries sugar or the glucose is released by consuming it with a little bit of protein, because protein doesn't have a relationship with insulin in the same way that carbohydrate does. So it's about becoming a little bit more aware of the foods that you're eating and how do those foods make you feel. Do they spike your insulin levels and cause you to be hungry 2.5 hours later, or do they keep your insulin really nicely balanced? So for example, someone might have porridge for breakfast and go, well, that's a beige carbohydrate. But if that porridge with lots of kind of blueberries and seeds and nuts and things like that on it keeps your blood sugars really well balanced, that works for your body. But the next person could have that and be hungry by 10:30 because it spiked their insulin and crashed it. So it's really about getting back in touch with what our body is telling us around the foods that we're consuming. And if something keeps you full, that food works for you. So when I work with my clients, I say to them, nothing is necessarily off limits. Of course, the white carbohydrate is, because we want to remove that completely. But if there's some things that work for your body and they don't make you feel bloated and they keep your blood sugars really nicely balanced and you can go for good 4 to 5 hours without needing to snack, then that works for your body. I'll give a really good example. My dad used to be able to eat 3 oranges after his lunch, and that would just keep him going all day. I have 1 orange after my lunch, and by 3 o'clock I'm raiding the kitchen to try and find something to snack on. So I know that oranges don't work for my body type. So we need to just start listening to what our body is telling us in terms of has it spiked our insulin levels and has it crashed? Because if we're hungry by 10:30, what we ate at breakfast didn't work, it's spiked our insulin and it's crashed. The same with the 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock slump. What we ate at lunchtime didn't work because it's caused our insulin levels to spike and trough. And then we end up, because the brain functions on glucose, the brain says, sends a message, blood sugars are really low, we need to eat more glucose. And then we end up usually eating something that's quick to be released into our bloodstream. So that's the one thing around the kind of carb element of it. Never see those colorful carbohydrates. If that makes you feel uncomfortable, just see them as fiber rather than thinking of them as carbs. That's another way that you can take it. But we absolutely should be having a plate full of, half the plate should be full of colors, a quarter of the plate, maybe a little bit more than a quarter, should be the good quality protein, and then a little bit of, if you want the beige carbohydrate, you can do. It's a personal choice, really. And always eat them in the right order. Eat your fiber first, then eat your protein, then eat the kind of carbohydrate, whether that's rice, pasta, potatoes, what have you. And then as far as sugar is concerned, and this kind of addictive quality that sugar has, when we consume sugar, because it tastes nice, and we're talking about the white sugar now, because it tastes nice, the body releases a little bit of dopamine. It's a neurotransmitter. It's a neurotransmitter that tells us that actually, that was really nice. I really liked that. Maybe I'll just have a little bit more. When you're a kid, if you fall over and hurt your knee, your parent might say to you, oh, you poor thing, here, have a sweet to make it feel better. So we start to associate sugar with being something that makes us feel better. And so, in times of stress, our neurology is such, our brain is wired in such a way that we think, sugar's going to make this stressful situation better. But actually, if you think about what I said at the beginning, it's heating the body up, it's creating stress internally. It makes stress harder to deal with if you're reaching for sugar when you're in a stressed state. And so we've got dopamine being released because it makes us feel better. And because we like the feeling of dopamine being released, it gives us a little bit of buzz. We reach for a bit more and we reach for a bit more, but it's that addictive nature of it. When you're addicted to something, you have to have a bit more and a bit more to kind of reach the next level, if you like, to kind of feel the effects of it. And that's exactly what sugar does. It releases dopamine, but in order to if we're constantly eating sugar, in order to get the benefit of it, we've got to eat a bit more and a bit more to get that little dopamine hit to make us feel good. And so it becomes an addictive substance. And there we are in another kind of spiral of chaos that the body can't cope with, much more stress going on internally, not being able to cope with stress externally, reaching for comfort foods when we're in a time of stress, usually sugary foods. And so that spiral goes on. And it's not about saying you can't ever have sugar again. That's absolutely not what I'm saying. It's about becoming more aware of how it makes you feel and actually choosing, now is the time that I'm going to consume that sugar, rather than having these big insulin swings that basically control our choices around sugar. Because as soon as our insulin drops, the body goes, we need more sugar, eat more sugar, and we eat more sugar. And so it feels like it's out of control. The sugar cravings feel out of control. So you've got two angles there. You've got, sugar cravings that are out of control because your insulin is all over the place. And you've also got this kind of relationship with dopamine and the kind of feel good comfort food element of sugar, and everything that went on in our past as far as our brain is concerned as well, that makes us continue to reach for sugar. So it is a hard thing to break, but if you can get your first meal of the day right, then that will have a knock-on effect to the choices that you make throughout the rest of the day. And so that's where I start with all of my clients. I just say, let's get the first meal of the day, whether that's breakfast or whether that's mid to late morning or lunchtime. Let's get that first meal of the day absolutely spot on to mean that your blood sugars are staying balanced through the course of the next 4 to 5 hours. And that then starts to reduce the amount of cravings we have, the amount of stress that's going on in the body, and the amount of reaching for comfort foods that happens as a result.
I love it. Absolutely love it. I love how you break down this huge mountain of, oh no, how do I deal with this now, into a little first step. Let's get our first meal of the day right. And I don't know about you, with all this intermittent fasting, I have seen more havoc happening there, because it is easiest for most of my clients to skip breakfast then, and to increase this intermittent fasting period, which apparently is so good for us. And yes, I agree, it's really important for us that our body has a break from all this breaking down, digesting, metabolizing, and so it can go into this rest rejuvenating phase. But I love how you put emphasis on how important this first meal of the day is. And I would say probably even more important for us women, because if we skip that, then there is a whole other cascade again that's happening with our hormones. And very often this really puts a huge impact on our thyroid gland. But let's see if we have enough time to get more into the hormones. I would love to say something about the addictiveness that sugar brings with us. Thank you for explaining this. This was beautifully explained. And I would just like to add that if you're looking for this dopamine hit, I've got a better solution for you. And I know you've probably got the same solution for me, because we both have the same journey. You can do a beautiful workout and make this your workout. It doesn't have to be super intense, or, make it so it fits for you, but working out also releases dopamine, and it's so much healthier for us. The other thing I wanted to say is, I love how you speak about carbs, because I still feel there's so much demonizing about carbs, and so many clients are really scared of carbs. So I love how you said also, it's not about restricting yourself. It's not about, trying to never eat sugar, because that's not real either. We're just before Christmas now, so we're probably having the one or the other treat, and that's okay. I also love how you pointed out that it's really important to individualize. Like for you, it's very different to your father. And this is true for each and every single one of us. If you and I were eating the same foods, I'm pretty sure we wouldn't feel the same way. So I love that you pointed this out as well. So thank you very much for that. I would love to hear
Is there anything else we can do to break this addictive cycle with sugar, and also in terms of foods, because there are so many hidden sugars in foods? Have you got some secrets up your sleeve for us there?
Well, the first thing I always say to clients is just stop with the low fat stuff, because that is a complete misnomer.
I love you.
The low fat stuff, you take a food group out of something like fat and you have to add something else in to give it flavor. And so as a result, there's tons of hidden sugar in there. So, you know, even though it says 99 calories, because we still obsess over our calories, actually there's 99 calories in there that are going to spike your blood sugars. And actually, you'd be better off eating, you know, a full fat, let's say yogurt, a full fat yogurt without the sugar in. That will keep your blood sugars much better balanced, because as I said, protein and fat doesn't have a relationship with insulin. It's only carbohydrate. So we want to be focusing on, you know, starting to go. And this for some clients is a real mindset shift. They really have to work hard, because for years they have been told that low fat is the way to go. For women in particular, it's so disruptive to our hormones, because the raw materials to our hormones are made up of good quality fats. So we need good quality fats in our diet. So we really want to be focusing on making sure that we're consuming lots of good fats, and try and persuade our brain to move away from thinking that everything has to be low fat. And the other thing we need to think about as well is to and I always say to clients, if you want to count anything, count nutrients, don't count calories.
Yes.
Because the nutrients are what is going to help you have the energy and the you know, you could, a really good example is someone who's, you know, on a low calorie, let's say they're on a 1,000 calorie diet a day, and they're eating kind of, you know, Special K for breakfast, which I don't know whether your clients have that, but it's a cereal basically.
Yes.
And then they're having maybe a sandwich and a low calorie packet of crisps and a low calorie yogurt at lunchtime, and then a low calorie meal in the evening. And yes, they may have only eaten 1,000 calories, but they've had no nutrients. It's all been processed. And one of the ways that the food industry can reduce the calorie consumption by taking out the fat is because for 1 gram of fat, there's 9 calories. For 1 gram of carbohydrate, there's 4 calories. So of course, the more sugar they add, they can bring the calorie level down. So, you know, if you're a calorie counter, that might be the thing that makes you think, right, well, I'm staying within my calorie consumption. But actually, if those calories are causing your blood sugars to spike and your insulin to spike, that's causing stress internally. That's releasing cortisol. Insulin, cortisol are high. You won't ever burn the fat for fuel, because your body's in a state of stress. It's trying to resist all of these kind of things that we're throwing at it. So if we focus on consuming lots of nutrients, so lots of color on our plate, that's going to have a much slower release of insulin. It's not going to cause the cortisol to be released. And as a result, we're going to be able to manage our weight more effectively. We're going to be able to sleep better and all those kind of things. So we really need to encourage, or to think about, how can I move away from thinking about calories, because often there's hidden sugars in the things that I've got, you know, any sort of cereal bars and things like that. The food adverts will be, you know, 99 calories per bar, this, that, and the other. And you think, oh, great, this is keeping within my calorie consumption. But actually, there's loads of hidden sugar in there, and that's going to cause an insulin spike. So if we can encourage our bodies if we can encourage a better insulin balance, it's going to remove the need to snack in the first place anyway. So we won't be needing to reach for the 99 calorie cereal bar or what have you. And so we'll just have much more balanced insulin, which will reduce the stress internally. So in terms of hidden sugars, but there's hidden sugars in all sorts of things, like, you know, sauces, pasta sauces, anything basically that's processed will have extra sugar added to it, because it gives something a long shelf life. I was speaking to someone yesterday, and they said, you don't often see an expiry date on a bag of sugar. And it's really true, you don't, because sugar is a preservative. It keeps things shelf stable. So the food industry are adding lots of sugar to things without us realizing it, in order to give things a longer shelf life, to keep things on the shelf for longer, so they can sell more of these sugary products to us. So I think, you know, the key message there, and that was kind of a long way of saying where is sugar hidden, but the key message there is to really think, actually, you know, let me just focus on the nutrients I'm consuming, and let's move away from worrying about the calories, because when I move away from worrying about the calories, I'll be moving away from all the hidden sugars, basically, because I'll be just focusing on the colors and the nutrients and cooking things or making things that are fresh and energizing rather than grabbing things because my energy levels are up and down and up and down.
Beautiful.
Which is exactly where I was.
Beautiful. I couldn't agree more with you. I love this. Absolutely. Nutrition versus counting calories, counting your nutrition. I love that. Absolutely beautiful. And yeah, I can very much relate to this low fat category of clients. And I have to say, I was there at some point too during my modeling time. I also thought, yeah, let's go low calorie, low fat. That's the way to go. So I can still, because I love eating, I can still eat and maintain the way I was meant to look. And yeah, I noticed as well, this doesn't work at all. But what I don't know if you do the same. What I suggest to my clients, to those that are really scared of eating full fat dairy, I'm suggesting to, in the beginning, so take full fat dairy, and then if you're really scared of it, mix it with a little bit of water, because then you still have this beautiful, good product that is intact and will soothe your hormones and everything, yet it is a little bit lighter if you can't mentally or you don't want to use the full fat. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I would love to switch gears quickly. I know we are running short of time, but I am so intrigued to hear a little bit about, so how can we support ourselves best when we approaching perimenopause or menopause? So help us out here a little bit. We want to hear wisdom.
Yeah, so we want to have a really clean liver. That's the first place to start. So we need a balanced insulin, because I said at the beginning, if insulin can't take the sugar to the cells for energy protection, it takes it to the liver, and the liver has to store it as glycogen. So if we can balance our insulin levels, then we're not sending all that sugar or that carbohydrate to the liver to be stored. The other thing as well, which is really useful to know, is your liver takes about 20 minutes from the point at which the message goes through that you're hungry. Your liver takes about 20 minutes before it can start producing the glycogen. So actually, if you get a message to say that you're hungry, go and do something for 20 minutes, have a drink of water and set a timer on your clock and go and do something for 20 minutes, because I can almost guarantee you won't be hungry when you come back, kind of thing, when that alarm goes off. And that's then giving your liver an opportunity to clear out some of that glycogen to start using it, because we want our liver to work effectively. So one of the simplest things you can do to support your liver is to have half a lemon squeezed into warm water first thing in the morning. That will start to flush your liver through and support your liver. And we want that, as I say, we want our liver to be working properly. We need to be making sure we're consuming those good fats so that our hormones have got the raw materials, our estrogen and progesterone have got the raw materials to be able to manufacture. We need to reduce our stress, because cortisol is a hormone that steals from estrogen and progesterone as well. So if we can reduce that external stress, yoga, etc., as well as internal stress from the sugar that we're consuming. And then let's think about having a protein-based breakfast or a protein-based start to the day. The first food that we eat should be protein-based, because our stomach's full of hydrochloric acid. Hydrochloric acid will very quickly break down carbohydrate, but it's much slower to break down protein. So that means that the release of glucose into our bloodstream is much slower. And that then means that we've got balanced blood sugars, which means we're not releasing the cortisol because we're stressed internally. So we're not stealing the raw materials from our estrogen and progesterone, and the body's able to produce those at the right level. We've not got high levels of insulin and cortisol. Those two prevent us from burning fat, so we can manage our weight, particularly around the middle in perimenopause years. We can manage that more effectively. We can sleep better, which allows the body to reset through the course of the night when our insulin levels are under control. And all of these are signs, women in perimenopause, sleep is a really big issue for them. And we know that sleep is so important for the body to be able to heal. We need good quality sleep. We need good quality sleep for the liver to be able to detoxify and clear rubbish out of the system. So we really want to be thinking, again, just going back to those really small steps. The first small step is eat protein first thing, the first meal that you consume. The second small step is to, where can I reduce my stress down? Maybe it's just practicing some breathing. If I can't practice some yoga, I'll practice some timed breathing and things and start to reduce my stress down. setting myself that timer of 20 minutes when I feel hungry in order to allow my liver to start clearing out some of the glycogen, rather than eating something straight away and then it never clears out. And really kind of giving lots of love to the liver. That's a kind of really important thing from a peri and menopausal perspective. We need our liver working effectively, and that needs us to have balanced blood sugars, focusing on not snacking between meals and having that protein base for breakfast, and really taking those small actions like the lemon water, like the 20 minutes, maybe aiming to go to bed by 10 o'clock so that we can get better quality sleep. All of these things will really support the liver and really help to navigate through menopause and perimenopause. I'm 53 and I'm not planning to have any menopause symptoms. I say that to my kids and they're like, oh God, Mum, yeah, whatever. But it's true. I don't want to be someone who's debilitated by menopause, and that needs the liver to have lots of love and the blood sugars to be really balanced. And when you can do that, you can navigate your way through perimenopause and menopause really, really quite effectively.
I love that. Have I mentioned that I totally love you and love your work? I just need to say it again. What I love about this approach, obviously it's doable, it's broken down in little steps, it's so empowering, and also it takes away this whole horrible fear around approaching perimenopause, approaching menopause. We are a wreck then, and nothing can be done anymore. Everything is out of order. We just need hormones somewhere else. So thank you. You are absolutely amazing. Where can we find you?
You can find me at thesugarfreecoach.com or SueThomasWellbeing.co.uk, but sugarfreecoach.com is the easiest place to find me. I'm also on Instagram, SueThomas_the_sugar-free-coach, and Sue Thomas, the Sugar-Free Coach, on Facebook as well. I'd love for you to go and follow it, or like my Facebook page. And I'm always putting kind of content on there and stuff as well to help women really understand how they can break that cycle of sugar consumption and live a fully empowered life.
Beautiful. And I will, of course, put all of this into the show notes. So to finish, could you please give my audience 3 gold nuggets?
Eat protein for breakfast. That would be my first thing. Make sure you're drinking 2 liters of water a day. That will keep your energy levels up, and really focus on that plate full of colors, some good quality protein, and very minimal beige carbohydrate.
Beautiful. This has been absolutely amazing. I so want to have you back in the podcast. You are amazing. Sue, I can't thank you enough for the beautiful, empowering, amazing work that you do in this world, helping me and so many others to make our world a healthier, happier place. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth. I've so enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed chatting. Thank you so much.
Take care, beautiful.
I hope you loved and enjoyed this podcast as much as I did. If you did, I would love to ask you a tiny favor. Could you please share, subscribe, like, or review my podcast, because this would help to spread the word and to make our world a healthier, happier place. Because I know that you were born to live your best life and to feel absolutely wonderful in your precious body, your brilliant mind, and your boundless soul. So what are you still waiting for? Please make sure you do. I believe in you. I am your biggest cheerleader. Keep glowing. Much love.